Hey, what's going on? This is Warren from the Raps. A quick question to ask you. Do you have no time to
Hey, how's
practice?
it going? My name's Zach Evans, and today I want to teach you.
I don't care about you, Zach Evans. Anyway, if you have no time to practice and you're very busy with your schedule and whatnot, then today's live stream, I got you covered. That's what we're going to be talking about in today's live stream. Okay, bear with me 1 second. Just want to get all my Facebook and live stream and stuff in order. Let me do a quick sound check. Live. Very cool. Thank you for your patience. Let's see here. All right, that doesn't work. That's a little weird. Ah, cool. Sorry. I am not really tech savvy. Okay, here we go. Kind of. All right, so let's get into it. All right, so like I mentioned before, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on how to practice when you don't have time to practice, when you're too busy, when your schedule's too hectic. I'm also going to be teaching you how to get more organized and whatnot. But you know, when you are too busy to practice, I believe you're going to fall into one of two categories, and that is, first one is you might not realize it, but you're just not good at scheduling. And if you're not good at scheduling, it's just a matter of organization. So you're not really organizing your day and your time properly. The second category is that your schedule is sporadic, so it's kind of all over the map sometimes, maybe not all the time, but it doesn't follow a fixed routine from day to day. And you don't really have a large chunk of time to practice, all right? So those are the two categories I'm going to be covering next, and I think you're going to fall into one of those. Harsha, thank you on Facebook. I love you too, man, even though I don't know you. All right. I think you're a man. All right. All right. So let's talk about organizing, and scheduling your day. So what you're going to have to do, and these kind of things to do in the beginning, it takes some time. So you're gonna have to spend some time to sit down and do this. But I promise you, when you sit down and you take some time and if you set it all, then you later on you don't really have to worry about it. And it's almost like you take 10 to 15 minutes, maybe even more, maybe even a half hour to really plan out some stuff. It kind of automates it a little bit. So later on, it's going to make, let's put it this way, I'll say it as easy as possible. 15 to 30 minutes of planning will make sure that your schedule, let's say it operates like 90% more effectively, okay? It's almost like if you think about, they talk about this in strategies, and you know, here's a funny example. It's like war, right? Usually the people who will win a war, and I'm not gonna like go into specifics and countries and stuff like that or history. Cool, India, huh? All right, thanks, Harsha. I'm glad, that's cool to be reaching you in India. But let's go back to that example. Usually it's the people who spend the most time planning, maybe not the most time, but the people who have the most effective plans, they can spend a lot of time, and then when they're actually going into battle with each other, the one with the more effective plan, effective strategy is going to win hands down. All right. So you're gonna have to sit down and plan it out. You have to, before you even plan it out, actually, this is what you're gonna have to do. You have to audit your day. You have to audit your schedule. Pretty much do an audit of your in all the activities and time you're spending throughout the entire day. And what you're literally going to do is record. As daunting as it may sound, it's really not. You're going to record every minute of your entire day. And I have an app that I use for my own scheduling purposes. I'll include a link to it below. But if you are on the iOS store, I don't know if this is on Android. It's called, I believe it's called A.Tracker or something like that too. But again, I'll put a specific link to it below. So with this app, what I do is you have different categories, so you figure out what activities you are also doing throughout the day, like working, or you know, just you could put work in it, yeah, or you know, things like reading books, or let's say, what do I like? For me, practicing time, working on my YouTube channel, you know, editing videos, right? All these different separate activities, and It's pretty easy because you just press a button and it starts to record it. You just have to remind yourself to start using it. But once you do this, and I would say, even within a day, it's going to be it's going to be kind of clear, like the things that you're doing throughout the day, which you're, really spending most of your time on, or maybe some things that you don't want to spend your time on, you realize you're actually spending more time than necessary. You want to do this for a while, so about like some weeks or so. Hopefully you get to about a month. And if you really get into this, I want you to think that this is something you can do potentially for the rest of your life. Because if this one thing that's really made the most major difference in my practicing and organization and scheduling and productivity, it's this thing. It's just sitting down, really recording my time and being more efficient at organizing my schedule. So after a week or a month, you're going to have a lot of data, and it's going to be super clear after a long period of time. Your certain behaviors and that you are doing, and certain activities, productive or not productive. Right? It's going to be clear, like the things that you need to cut out and the things that you're good at. Right? And once you have this data, it's going to be pretty clear, and you'll find that you either do have time, or you're just not making really efficient use of it. So you're spending that time doing things that are not productive, or it's just you're really unfocused. It's gonna really point it out to you. Now, let's say once you have your practice session, let's say not practice session, once you have this all figured out and you have the data, then what you're gonna do is, or you could probably do this at the same time. I don't want to say you have to wait for one step in order. Generally, it's more effective to do one thing at a time. But you can start to schedule your practice session. You might want to actually do this immediately. I'm sorry, I'm all over the map today. But yeah, you can start, and you're going to schedule your practice session one day in advance. And from personal experience, you want to do this one day in advance. If you get to the point where you're scheduling your entire day, do it one day in advance, because for me, I found that it doesn't work to do it like a week or a month in advance, because from day to day, things happen, things might change, like an unexpected errand, or like something that happens that kind of, throws off like one activity. And when I've done that and I have it set for like an entire week, I found like small minor disturbance kind of throws me off for an entire day, and it just really sucked when that happened. So once I switched to just doing one day, and also to understand that it might not go exactly according to plan, it really helped me to plan my day more, or just to go through my day more effectively and not beat myself up that I'm not doing certain things. Okay. And the other thing is, you're going to need to set aside about 20 minutes. My experience with teaching students, that seems to be, and sometimes it's kind of like just a random number, but that seems to be the minimum amount of time that's necessary. You can go more, I don't know if you can go less, but I would say you want at least 20 minutes, all right? 20 minutes to practice it. And then the last thing with scheduling your practice session, make sure it's the first thing you do throughout your day. There's two benefits to that. One is that if it's important to you, you already got it taken care of, and then the rest of your day is going to go that much better. And the other thing is going to send a signal to your brain that this is a priority. And then when you consider a priority, you're going to be more likely to do it. All right. Now, let's say you don't really have a set schedule, and your schedule is kind of sporadic. It's like really random, and you don't have. You did this whole time audit thing. You still need to do it no matter what. And you look at your schedule, and you literally have all the data, and you don't really have a good 20 to 30 minute chunk of time. But I would hope that you actually, if you look at the free time that you have throughout your day, that cumulatively, let's say the whole total, if not just one chunk, but you have these free bits of time throughout the day, at least when you add it up in total, you'll have about 20 to 30 minutes. And if that's not the case, I don't know if I can help you with that. But let's say you add it up and you don't have one 30-minute chunk or 20-minute chunk, but if you add it up, you have 20 minutes total. Well, if you get good at this whole scheduling thing, what you'll have to do is, this is what's called the journalistic method. And I got this term from Cal Newport's book. It's a great book on how to work effectively. It's called Deep Work. if you're interested, just like send me a comment or whatever. I'll be happy to send you a link. I'm not gonna post it below, because it's yeah. Anyway, I won't say much about that. But Cal Newport's book, Deep Work, he calls this the journalistic method. And what it basically is just working whenever you have free time. So what you're gonna have to do is those free times you have throughout the day, you're gonna have to schedule like mini sessions in practice. All right. The challenging part of this is that the reason why I say you need a good 20 minutes a chunk is because in order to kind of tap into this full concentration mode, you need a certain set amount of time, because it's really hard to flip it on immediately and just completely, okay, I'm gonna concentrate now. It's not like a switch that you can push on your head and then all of a sudden you're concentrating, okay? So that's the hard part about scheduling these mini sessions. Hello, Jamal. Thank you for your comment on Facebook. Glad for you to be here. Thanks, Harsha. All right. So yeah, that's the journalistic method. And let's talk about another, and we're thinking long-term. This time we'll think long-term over like a period of a few months or even an entire year. If you kind of know what your schedule is like, you'll have periods where this is what I like to think of as periods of maintenance and periods of emergence, where periods of maintenance where you're super busy and you're just kind of maintaining your progress. You're not really making a lot of progress. Maybe you're actually even getting just a little bit worse, not too worse. And in periods of immersion where you have a lot more time and you could really just make a lot of progress. And you could take an example from, I hope you guys are familiar with the psychologist Carl Jung. He was kind of like a protege of Sigmund Freud. You can look it up if you want. But I looked at his routine, and it's from another book I read about this. I think it's called The Daily Rituals of Artists or something like that. It's like a book online you can find. It's really good. If you want the specific details about that book, go ahead and post a comment below. But he talks about Carl Jung, what his work life was like is let's say during like the regular seasons, not summer or winter. Let's say, like the regular work period, if you want to think of it that way. He was basically just like a teaching machine, or he would have all his clients do a lot of work like that. But then during the summers, what he would do, he kind of had his own it's like a tower or a cabin that he built in the woods where he would just retreat there and just spend a lot of time, like not really taking any clients whatsoever and just working on these issues that he wanted. So in that sense, I believe you're going to have periods like that. There's going to be periods where you got a lot of work going on, not a lot of time to practice, but then there's going to be times where, hopefully like in the summer, and if you don't have time for that, then a certain amount of sacrifice is necessary. You kind of have to switch out certain activities. But when you get to those periods where you have a lot of free time, you can just make it a priority and spend a lot of time more practicing, and that'll be those periods where you can make a lot of improvement. Okay? So the only downside is we talked about like maintenance. If you're just maintaining, you're not making a lot of progress, right? Hello, Leonardo. Hello to Peru. It's awesome, man. Thanks for checking out the live stream today. If you have any questions about what we're talking about, by the way, and also some on-topic questions, please leave them in the comment sections. All right. I actually just there's a recent example of this. One of my adult students who's taking piano lessons with me, she has a full-time job, right? And then just recently, she also decided to go back and get like a graduate degree. So her schedule is really busy, actually. Some people use, we'll talk about this later, being busy as an excuse, but she literally is really busy. So we had to fine-tune her schedule, and the practice time had to come down a lot. And I was very upfront with her, with the amount of time, it's very limited. I was telling her that you might not make a lot of progress, so you want to think of this as just a maintenance phase. And a couple approaches you could take to that, or one approach I'm using with her, we switched to doing some older music, some easier repertoire. Because if you're just maintaining, the problem is if you're not making progress, you're going to lose motivation, right? So in that sense, if you start working on, I know you want to keep challenging yourself, but if you don't have the time, you're not going to get better. So for her, I suggested let's do some, not all of your practice has to go towards doing easier music, but you're going to work on a lot more easier pieces, and it's going to be a lot more than you're used to. because in your mind it creates these kind of small victories, these small wins. I talk about this a lot in my I did a motivation live stream I did a couple weeks ago where I talked about having small wins to keep your motivation and energy moving forward. So if you want to know more about that in detail, I'll send a link to that specific live stream that I did a couple weeks ago in the description. So that's what we did with her, and when we did that, because for a while she was really, not depressed, you know, because she's a trooper, right? But I could tell it was kind of dragging on her, and she wasn't making progress, and you can tell she wasn't entirely too happy about that, even though in general she's a hard worker. So once we did this and started working on easier pieces, and you know, it's not challenging, but she's finishing these easier pieces, so it is kind of like, you know, small wins in a way. You could see there was a switch, and then she felt so much better about the lesson. So I would say you want to do that. And of course, when you get to your immersion periods where you have a lot more free time, really go and attack. Try to make as much progress as possible. All right. And let's say after everything that I've shared with you, after all of this, you still have no time to practice. Well, it might be a matter of motivation. Again, check out that motivation live stream. You're really gonna have to think about that, because sometimes if you set the wrong goals, then your motivation is skewed. And when in fact you have time to practice, you're just making excuses not to practice because you're hating piano. You know, you don't want to dislike piano practice. Personally, I'm someone, I love practicing piano. It's not always fun, but I love it. There's a lot of people who say they hate practice, and I don't really believe in that. So if you're not really looking forward to practicing, then the motivation's not there. You're setting the wrong goals for yourself. So it's not that you're busy, you're just not motivated enough to even sit down to do it. All right? The other thing you can think about is maybe your current lifestyle takes up all your time and you don't want to give up certain activities. Well, the hard answer to that is you're gonna have to change your lifestyle if piano practice is a priority for you. Because if it's not a priority for you, you're gonna change nothing about your lifestyle, okay? But you know, you only have so much time in a day, and if that time is going to something else and you don't have that time free, then it's pretty obvious you don't have the time to practice. And let's say after all this, you still don't agree with me and you say, I'm just so busy, this is not helping, all the tips that you gave me, after all this, I still don't have time to practice. Well, guess what? You're gonna have to look in the mirror and you just have to have an honest conversation with yourself, because if you still don't agree and I still don't have you're making these excuses, it's an excuse. Okay? You don't want to practice. It's not in it for you. Just do something else. All right, I'm sorry if that sounds harsh, but if after all this and you still don't have the time to practice, you don't want to practice. It's not a priority for you. You don't care, all right? You might just want to dabble in it, have fun, but it's not serious for you. And I don't mean serious in the sense that, you know, to become a professional musician or anything like that, but you just want to play for fun. You don't care about making progress. You don't care about taking it on a semi-serious level, all right? It's the harsh truth, but it is the truth, all right? Anyway, yeah, that's it for today's live stream. I hope that when you really sit down and think about it, and you're going to fall into these categories, and that it kind of spurs you on to understand that you really do have time to practice. If you're watching this live stream, that's what I believe you're trying to do. So I hope you use these strategies, these tactics, take it from someone who's been there, or someone who's actually made excuses as well. You know, there's a period of time where I was like, I don't have time to practice, I'm so busy. I did the same thing with exercising and working out. You know, my back hurts, you know, I just don't have time for it, I got so much going on. And when I really think about it today, it's just excuses. And excuses can be dangerous, because the more you think about it, the more you validate it, the more it becomes a reality, when in fact it's the furthest from the truth as possible. All right? Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate your time. If you like this video, please hit that like button, comment, subscribe, share. And if you have any questions that I can help you with in the future, please make sure to let me know sometime. All right? Anyways, I'll see you guys next week. Really enjoy the rest of your weekend, and happy practicing.